Today we are talking about a topic on conversations. Let's talk about it that might not be very dear and to everybody's heart, but I think it's something that should be discussed. We're talking about conflict resolutions. How do you deal with conflict resolution, basically? And we'll just give you a couple of pointers here and there on how we deal with conflict resolution. How you doing?
I'm doing lovely. How you doing, my man?
I can't complain. Just getting through the day, man, and we're about to talk about some stuff. So this is our very first show, so if it's kind of skippy, trippy here and there, y'all bear with us. We've signed a year-long contract with Airtight Company to put us on, so that's exactly what they're doing. And we're brought to you mainly on YouTube. About to get this website going, and we're gonna grow. We're gonna grow. So if you don't mind, go ahead and start us up.
Well, conflict resolutions. How could I start? Well, in today's society, since we have become more in touch with strangers, it's come a point in time to where we're now more close to each other, and even though we don't really know each other, but social media allows us to become more interactive with strangers. But at the same time, it also, in my opinion, has allowed us to become more distant from people. And nowadays, in my opinion, especially when you go out in public and especially online, you see that people become agitated more quickly, and it's like it's a conflict arises real quickly now. Whereas, sometimes in decades past, you have a fault with someone, you talk it over, and you squash it or whatever. But I mean, even back then, you had your conflicts, major conflicts, and people had their issues. But to make a long story short, I would say that in today's society, most people are on the edge for little or nothing. You have road rage, you have children shooting up schools. I mean, well, divorce is always here, but it might be more common than, say, 40 or 50 years ago. Families are breaking up. So we're just going to discuss a few things, and, we'll throw up a few scenarios, and we're going to tell you guys how we would solve a conflict in these certain types of scenarios that we'll present to you.
Okay. Well, let me just do this. I did a little reading, so I'll just call out a few, and then we'll go through them one by one. Uh, and I'll just read this statement that I ran across. I thought was interesting. Effective conflict resolution strategies include active listening, empathy, and clear communication to understand different perspectives. Other strategies involve specific approaches like collaboration to find mutually beneficial solutions, compromise to find a middle ground, or active listening to de escalate the situation. Key steps involve defining the problem, brainstorming solutions, and agreeing on a resolution that addresses everyone's needs. All right, the first one that they suggested to do was collaborate. You know, find something that the other person is interested in, or bring them into what your process is, and y'all go back and forth with those different ideas. And I think that communication is just actually the biggest part of actually resolving a conflict, because the best way we and the only way some of us know how to communicate is with our mouths. So if you don't tell somebody how you feeling, or just kind of expound on what's going on inside your head, what made you feel that way, is this something that triggers you that the other person did, or do you just fly off the handle all the time? So I just thought this was interesting, and I'll let you take the next one, which is compromising.
Compromising. I would think that compromising is key to conflict resolution because let's face it, whether you're working or at home with your spouse, your family, your friends, your neighbors in business, even your brothers and sisters, you're never going to agree on 100% on everything. So compromise would be key, and I think both parties involved in the conflict needs to have a compromise to where both parties walk away satisfied. So if you're the type of person who's not willing to compromise, then you're probably going to have a lot more conflicts than you would expect. And then some of those type of individuals are usually the ones who complain a lot. You can't do nothing for them. They can't do nothing for you. They're always arguing. And these are the type of people you don't want to work with. You don't want to hang out with them because they don't bend for nothing. And they're not very productive individuals as a whole. I mean, don't let me get away from conflict resolution, but compromise is key. So, what are you willing to sacrifice to solve the conflict and the other person involved? What are they willing to sacrifice? Because if it's just a one-sided compromise, the person who feels shorted or they didn't get what they thought would be a fair result or action, then they're not going to be there happily. And if they come across that person again, they're probably going to have another conflict really, really soon.
because they didn't resolve. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and take this next one, and then we're going to go into a couple of scenarios. Avoidance is probably one of the best ways I think to not even get in a conflict. If you know you got beef with somebody, or you know you got a problem with somebody, why are you always in their face, or why are you always making it a point to go over there and start a conflict? Because at the end of the day, that conflict might lead to a situation that get you hurt, or worse, lead to somebody flying off the handle and doing something they wouldn't normally do if you had come to a resolve. So if you know that you don't like them, or you know that every time you come in contact with them they set you off, the best way to handle that is to avoid it. Because if you're not even trying to resolve it, then you what's that say, cruising for a bruising, itching for a scratch.
Pretty much.
Just avoid something that you know that you're not even trying to resolve. So I think that's the best way I'd handle it. And breaking off of this part of the show, we're going to go into a couple of scenarios, I guess. So I used to find myself in those situations. I wouldn't call myself a big road rage person because I never, I didn't say, I'm not gonna say I never flip nobody off or nothing like that. But I'm not gonna jump out the car on anybody. I'm not finna pull up beside you and start cussing at you. Even in my younger days, I wouldn't do nothing like that. Wow, tailgating, that can cause a very big issue. A lot of people don't like you to tailgate them. I know I don't like people to tailgate me, but in those situations, yeah, I guess the best resolution for that is to avoid the situation altogether, because it's a lot of traffic nowadays on the road, and that's gonna set anybody off. It's so many people on the interstate and roads now, and especially where I live at, it's just ridiculous. Traffic is blowing up. It's growing. The city is growing. I'm pretty sure anybody that lives in a large municipal place like we do, it's out of control. So yeah, just avoid it. Don't make eye contact with folks. Don't do no extra gestures, because you can send somebody through the roof in a half a second nowadays, and it's just not worth losing your life in traffic. So yeah, I don't. That's what I say. Don't.
That part, I give you to add on to that. Excuse me. I saw a news clip on YouTube where this Spanish guy, I want to say down there in the Miami area, South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, something like that. Perfect example, road rage. I think the Spanish guy was acting like the police because he honked at somebody because the other individual, excuse me, ran the stop sign. So the guy who ran the stop sign, if I remember correctly, cussed the Spanish guy out. So he got out of his car. The other guy got out of his car They changed a few words, pushed and shoved a little bit, and then the Spanish guy wound up the man's car up a little bit. I don't think he killed the guy, but he's gonna do some prison time, all because he's wanting to play Mr. Policeman for a guy who ran a stop sign. So avoiding that would have been the best option for that. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, cause I mean, like, I think people, they don't be thinking. That's really it. It's you got to have some type of critical thinking skills, which a lot of us lack in. And I don't know if it's education or how you was raised, but we need to start thinking, people. We really do. And a lot of people are just losing their lives for no reason at all over simple stuff. I'll give you another example. Like, what if somebody cut you off in line in the grocery store? You gonna push them in the back? You gonna cause a situation that might bring the police there? Y'all ain't gonna go home with any groceries at that point. You know, think ahead. Think of what you're doing. Uh, and you might not even want to say nothing to them sometimes. You know, they might have two or three items. They might have thought they was there before you, you know, or they might act like they didn't see you. And they sometimes folks just ugly attitudes, and you know, people just don't know how to act sometimes. So, and once again, going back to it, they might be having a bad day. You know, they might have their grandmama at home sick, you know, alone, and they just trying to get them couple items and get up out of there, and they just don't really care about you at all. So, you know, unfortunately, it's like that nowadays. People ain't thinking about you. You know, you ain't that important. You are to you, but man, they might need to get to their love interest. You know what I'm saying? So if you got a couple extra minutes, you might just say, "Excuse me, I know you saw me here," or you might just want to leave it alone. So,
Hmm.
but it's best not to raise your voice and start flipping them off and talking crazy, standing behind them and doing all that. So that's the best way to resolve that. You know, be kind at all extents and go on about your day and stay alive for the most
Yeah.
part. Yeah, just
Yeah.
stay alive, cause.
Hmm.
So yeah, folks, that's what we have for today's show, conflict resolution. I think we will have a second part, but we'll do that one later on in the year, so you know we can go to another subject and all right, conversations. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.